Hi everyone, this is audap. Let's continue our game of Paranormasight, the 7 Mysteries of Honjo, running on Nintendo Switch. An old hanging scroll. I don't know who painted it. It's been hanging here since before I was born. An arrangement of flowers. We bring in someone to do it. I don't even know what the flowers are called. A fax machine. It can send images to other places along the telephone network. I don't really know how it works. Most houses don't have one. I rarely find a use for it. A private investigator I hired. A friend told me about him. They said he's not very well known, but he's good at what he does. When I first visited his office in Ota City and saw how he dressed, I could hardly believe he was a detective. But after talking to him for a while, I changed my mind. He says some strange things at times, but he seems like the reliable sort. Okay, Richard Kai, male, private investigator. Curse echoes none. The eccentric man that Shogo Oki ran into at Honjo Bridge. Richter is actually a private investigator with an office in Ota City, Tokyo. After taking on a request from Haruo Shigema to investigate the unsolved kidnapping and murder of her son, he gets caught up in the events surrounding the rite of resurrection. Once a police officer, Richter was racked with guilt over the police's inability to help all those in need, and quit the force to start his own private investigation firm. However, his soft-hearted nature leads him to take on too many cases and has put his office in dire financial straits. How he is still in business is a mystery, with some whispering that a wealthy patron is keeping him afloat. Richter studied alongside Detective Jun Irio at the police academy. Somewhat surprisingly, given his outlandish clothing and mannerisms, Richter excels at covert investigations and tailing his targets. He proudly refers to himself as an investigator extraordinaire, though that only ever succeeds at impressing himself. Richter's biggest source of happiness is nuzzling his pet female albino parakeet, Ernestine, which he keeps in his office. He also enjoys collecting mockingbird stickers, a popular line of merchandise featuring birds inexplicably dressed as delinquents, and can be frequently sighted searching around town for them. While out and about, Richter typically leaves the office, and more importantly, Ernestine, in the care of Amamori, a junior high schooler who volunteered to assist Richter after being involved in a previous case. Oh, he has a huge profile. My goodness. Azure Heron Agency, Richard Kai's private investigation firm in Kamata, Ota City. Originally, Kai thought to give it a simple name like Kai's Detective Agency, but upon hearing that people are more likely to pick names listed at the front of the phone book alphabetically, he decided to pick a name starting with A. Thus, the Azure Heron Agency was established. However, it is questionable whether the heron, a bird of somewhat ominous significance, is an effective symbol for attracting customers. Even his own assistant has referred to the name as confusing at best. After all, rather than an azure heron, Richter keeps a white parrot as a pet and does not dress in blue, but mostly white. If there was a symbolic connection to be made here, it has surely been lost on all but Richter himself. The private investigator, also known as a private eye, is a detective who operates their own agency. Although there are no formal qualifications necessary to become a private investigator, many are retired police agents or detectives due to the similarities between the work involved. At a glance, private investigation firms and inquiry offices might look similar, but they carry out different types of investigations. Inquiry offices specialize in conducting credit checks on businesses, while private investigators are generally involved in tailing persons of interest and gaining information serendipitously. Anything else? My God. The whole damn encyclopedia. The swinging of the pendulum echoes through the room. It feels livelier than usual with Richter here. Usually it's just me. A color television. Father bought one as soon as it hit the market. He likes to have the latest gadgets. Unlike the latest models, there is no remote control. We've had it for a long time. Even back when it was new, we all gathered around it and marveled at it as a family. But with Father and my husband being away so often, it quickly fell into disuse. Well, I'll be damned. Is that what I think it is? Goodness, you made me jump. It's just a silly little sticker my son got from somewhere or other. He put it up just before... Well, you know what happened. I still can't bring myself to take it down. Let me take a closer look. I knew it. It's Head Honjo from way back in set number 1. That's a real collector's item. Excuse me? Don't tell me you've never heard of the mockingbirds. The what? They're the hottest new craze. Cute little birds dressed up like rough and tumble delinquents. I've never heard of them, but this certainly seems to matter to you. The best part is nobody knows who made them. They just started showing up around town, and soon enough, they'd won everybody's hearts. The story goes that they're made by some anonymous artist who covertly leaves them behind in specific locations. No one knows where, or when, or where they'll show up next. They're basically an urban legend of sorts. I think one would turn up here of all places. This is a good sign, I'm sure of it. Ah, well, that's nice. Mockingbird number 1. These popular bird mascot stickers seem to pop up everywhere. Nobody knows who the legendary artist is behind these quirky birds, but they quickly became popular for their surreal yet oddly cute designs. Be in the right place at the right time in Honjo, and you might just be able to find all 20 of them scattered around. Legend has it collecting them all will bring good luck. A stereo unit with separate speakers designed for home use. My husband insisted on buying one, even though he isn't one to listen to music often. Let me bring you up to speed. We were in the middle of a chat when you suddenly started spacing out. And the whole time you were grinning to yourself like you just won the lottery. Care to tell me what that was all about? Well, where to start? Interesting. Very interesting. So, the haunting clapper's curse echoes appears out of nowhere. Told you how to perform the rite of resurrection and gave you the curse you'll need to do it. Have I got that right? That's right. So, it's all real. Honestly, I still find it hard to believe. But I guess I have it now. But I guess I have to now. I saw that curse stone appear in your hand myself. It looked like it popped clean out of thin air. With evidence that clear, there's no denying that there's some supernatural force at work. I don't think you quite understand. Oh? This isn't about evidence, and it isn't about belief. It's more than that. I know it's real. The moment the curse appeared, I knew everything before it even said a word. It was already there in my head, as clear as day. You just knew, huh? It was etched onto my soul, along with the curse echoes resentful memories. So I can feel it, what it was like. Dying like they did, hundreds of years ago. Wreathed in flame, writhing in pain as my flesh blackened and my blood boils. I can feel it. All the agony, all the rage. It fills me with bloodlust. I think I need to kill someone. Anyone will do, just as long as they're carrying fire. I see. That could be a problem. You think so? From what I know of you, I was sure you'd see it as an opportunity. The stronger the desire to resurrect someone, the stronger the urge to kill. That's how it seems to me, anyway. Good grief, talk about a spanner in the works. I say we take stock for a moment, remind ourselves where we've come from and where we're going. That might be a good idea. My heart is still racing. This is it, my chance, at long last. About the investigation. That's what you hired me for, ma'am, to look into your son's kidnapping last year. To uncover the truth behind the abduction and murder of Suichi Shigema. Oh yes, I remember. They never did find the one who did it. That's what I'm here about today. In fact, kind of kind of you to let me drop by so late, by the way. I've been turning over every last stone, and I've come up with a grand total of 1 lead. So you said. As far as the police are concerned, it's a cold case, but I've managed to make some headway. I remember, you were just about to tell me. The Shigema kidnapping overview. A kidnapping and murder case that took place in Honjo, Sumida, around 1 year ago. Haruo Shigema's son, Suichi, age 11, was kidnapped on his way home from school, with a ransom being demanded that same evening. Initially, the kidnapping was thought of as a simple extortion scheme, but when it came to light that the Shigema family was closely tied to the police, and Suichi was in fact the grandson of a senior official, it was quickly assumed that the perpetrator was acting upon a grudge against the police force. The kidnapping was treated as a direct attack against the good name of the police, and a large-scale investigation was launched that used the best equipment available to trace phone calls. This made it all the more embarrassing when they were unable to catch the culprit, losing the public's confidence. The culprit grew cocky, relentlessly mocking the police force. After 3 days of failure after failure, Haruo reached a breaking point. Spurred by concern for her son, she resolved to hand over the ransom money as fast as possible, but her husband and father, who held the prestige of the police in high regard, refused, saying that they would not let the criminal win by giving in to their demands. The increasingly frantic detective assigned to the case lost his temper when the criminal called to give an ultimatum, causing the culprit to never make contact again. Another week passed, and Suichi's body was found floating in the Sumida River. Suichi's death could be largely ascribed to the police's incompetence, but this was ultimately covered up with stringent media embargoes. The investigation was never closed, but the case has long gone cold. Suichi Shigema, male elementary school student. The only son of Haruo Shigema, he was kidnapped and murdered 1 year ago. His body was discovered floating in the Sumida River. Suichi was a conscientious, brave young boy who was determined to protect his mother, Haruo, amid his father's frequent absences. He dreamed of becoming a police officer and displayed diligence and an impressive sense of responsibility from a young age, likely due to being raised in an extremely strict environment. Born in the early 70s, he spent his days immersed in various activities and studies, including playing piano, learning the abacus, taking English lessons, and training in kendo. Suichi's tendency to put other people's needs over his own meant he died without ever telling his classmates how much he longed for them all to go out on a hunt for mockingbird stickers. Okay. About the investigation. You know, we still need to figure out exactly what you want me to do. Tell you what, why don't I tell you what I found and then we can make a decision. Alright? You know, about the kidnapping. I suppose there's not much point going over the kidnapping itself. No, I'm very familiar. Then I'll leave that for the files to cover and just confirm a few things about the case. The police traced the culprit's calls back to, let's see here, Northern Oyoko River here in Sumida City. It's quite a wide area. That's right. In the end, they never managed to nail down the exactly where the calls were coming from, but it was almost certainly the same location that Suichi was being held captive, since Suichi's voice could be heard during the killer's calls. Northern Oyoko River is quite a distance from Suichi's normal school commute. Factoring in that he was seen at school but went missing before he arrived at his house, it's likely that he was abducted by car on his route home. Maybe, but... Exactly. Shuichi was a clever boy. He never would have gotten into a car with a stranger. That's right. I was very firm about that. I know he understood, too. I even saw him warning the other children. It's possible that they forced him into the car. The only issue there is there weren't any witnesses to the kidnapping. You can't bundle someone into a car with that many students around and not be noticed, but nobody came forward to say they saw anything suspicious. So, did they target him at some other time or somewhere away from his usual route? Both of these seem a little far-fetched. Which raises the question, how did the kidnapper pull it off? The police never managed to find an answer. In the end, they decided that the kidnapper must have gotten lucky. Well, Why not turn the problem on its head? The kidnapper managed to convince Shuichi to get into their car, but how? The only thing that makes sense to me is if they were somebody that he would have a reason to trust. A teacher, perhaps, or a relative, or somebody else that he knew. But all the adults Shuichi knew had alibis. The police checked them all thoroughly. They did, huh? No one throws numbers at a problem like the cops. But what if it wasn't someone he knew, or rather... what if the culprit disguised himself as a police officer? That would explain why he didn't find them suspicious. The Shigema family has close ties with the police after all. He would have had reason to trust them. You might be right. But surely that couldn't have. Well, there's a problem with the theory. You'd be surprised how much police officers stand out. That's sort of the point after all. They're meant to be a visible deterrent against crime. But here's another interesting little bit of trivia I happen to know. When you ask people to imagine someone suspicious, nobody pictures women or children. Even kids who've been warned about stranger danger often subconsciously expect that danger to look like an adult man. Besides, Shuichi was the sort of boy who wanted to be a police officer when he grew up. He must have had a very strong sense of right and wrong. That's right. Wait, surely you can't mean... Now you're getting it. If, say, a young woman approached Shuichi asking for help, what would he have done? If someone like that said they were lost and asked him for directions, would he have gotten into a car? He might have. My husband always told him that a man had a duty to watch out for women and children. You could certainly argue that kind of attitude is outdated nowadays, but if Shuichi believed it, then we might have something here. Then you think the culprit was a young woman. But it was a man's voice on the phone. She might have been an accomplice, or maybe she didn't even realize she was being used. If anything, that would explain why she hasn't come forward. She herself might not realize she had anything to do with the case. So the question is, did anybody see Shuichi speaking with a young woman on the day of his disappearance? See, what I said about people's biases? That goes for witnesses too. And I figured that maybe if I started asking new questions, I might get some new answers. So I spent my day asking around Shuichi's school route, seeing if anyone had seen something. And one man thought he had. You mean he saw it happen? Well, I can't say that for sure yet. It turned out he wanted something from me, so he asked if we could talk in private. Several hours earlier. Alright, this should do. There's no one around. We can speak in confidence. Excuse me, what was your name again? Jonoichi. Got it. Well, Jonoichi, I'm all ears. Just so we're on the same page. You're a private detective investigating Shuichi Shigema's kidnapping. Do I have that right? Of course. What else do I look like? How should I know what a private detective looks like? Now forget it. Look, I'll tell you straight. My life is in danger, and I need your help. You'll excuse me if that caught me a little off guard. Let me ask you straight. Who's trying to kill you? A student called Michio Shiraishi. Interesting. A schoolgirl, eh? Sounds like you've been naughty. It's nothing like that. That girl, she's a murderer. I'm the only person who knows, but I saw what she did. Michio Shiraishi. I saw her kidnap Shuichi Shigema. Come again? I saw her talk to him on the street and lead him away. I didn't think much of it at the time, but then he went missing. She murdered him, I'm sure of it, or at least she got something to do with it. That's what you're here for, isn't it? Then you can't let her get to me. If that's true, you've been sitting on some valuable information. Why didn't you tell anybody? Well, you see, if you can't explain that, I don't have any reason to believe you. I couldn't. She told me she'd kill me if I spoke a word. You're telling me a squirrel girl had you scared for your life? So you've been sitting on that all this time, and you think she's coming for you now that you've spilled the beans? Yes, that's it, exactly. I'm begging you, don't let her get me. Arrest her, I'm telling you, she's a demon. Well, you seem to believe what you're saying, but it just doesn't add up. How could a schoolgirl have a fully grown man so terrified? You don't know what she can do. She'll curse me. Curse you? I'm sorry, but you're losing me here. It's true. Her house, it's... Now forget it. Why do I even bother? You seem dubious enough to believe me, but I should have known you'd never understand. Enough. I'll find someone else to help me. Hey. And that's about the long and short of it. I can hardly believe it. At the time, I thought his mention of curses was just crazy talk. But I'm starting to see that there might be something more to it. Then, if we can just find that girl. Curse or no curse, if she was with Shuichi on the day of the kidnapping, then there's a good chance she knows something. On top of that, I did some digging on the man I spoke to. His full name is Kohei Jonuichi. He's a teacher at Komataga High School here in Sumida. A teacher? Then the schoolgirl is one of his students? I think that's very likely. At last, we've got a lead. Hopefully, it'll be the breakthrough we're looking for. The right to resurrection, huh? I read about that in an occult magazine the other day. Apparently some old book showed up recently with all the gory details, and they say that the right can be found somewhere in Honjo. I remember the first time you told me about that. It felt like my prayer had been heard. Like I had hope, real hope for the first time. Ever since that awful day, I've wondered. What if I hadn't sent him to school? What if I had just paid the ransom? Not a day goes by when I don't think that if I'd done something differently, Shuichi would still be alive. You can't blame yourself, ma'am. It was the culprit's fault, not yours. Though I know that won't help any. Grief is funny like that. I'm guessing that's why you're after the right. Guess I didn't need to ask. It's written all over your face. I can tell how much he meant to you. But, and this is a big but, if this right is the real deal, using it will mean killing someone and stealing their soul. Is that a problem? If it comes to that, I'm afraid I'll have to stop you. Oh, that's a shame. A shame, huh? That's all? I thought if I'm going to be competing with other curse bearers, then your detective skills might come in useful. You realize you're talking about ending someone's life, right? Don't you see an issue with that? I think any parent in my position would happily kill for a chance like this. That's so, is it? Dear oh dear, what have I gotten myself into? If it makes you uncomfortable, then you won't have to get any blood on your hands yourself. I don't need you to kill the other curse bearers. I only need you to find them. I won't be a party to murder, ma'am. Not even for a client. I'll pay you. That's a shame. I see. I didn't realize you were so stubborn. Let me say, though, it's not like I don't get what you're going through. As long as you're not killing anyone with your own hands, maybe I can help you out. What do you have in mind? Well, how about stealing someone else's curse stone after they've filled it with soul dregs? Huh? If that was all that you were after, then I could lend you my services guilt-free. If the other curse bearer wants to kill each other, that's their business. I'm not trying to be a hero here. I guess there's no guarantee a stolen curse stone will work, but we can worry about that later. Well then, I suppose we have a deal. Although, what if I stole a curse stone using my curse? Would you disapprove? That would void our contract, ma'am. Just warning you now. My. You know, we still need to figure out exactly what you want me to do. Alright. Before we go any further, why don't you tell me about that curse of yours? The Haunting Clappers, was it? That's one of the 7 Mysteries of Honjo, if I remember correctly. That's right. The original story did happen somewhere near here, I think. I'm sure I remember hearing that. In that case, my money would be on all the curse bearers being somewhere in Honjo. Our first move should be to narrow them down. Some of them are bound to try and come for you first. We'll need to be ready. The curse makes their bearers more willing to kill, so an attack could come from anywhere. That sounds sensible. And if I remember correctly, your haunting clappers can set people on fire, but only if they have a naked flame or a lighter in their person. Is that right? That's right. In olden times, wooden clappers were used to warn people of fire. I'm guessing it punishes those who don't heed the warning. It seems like a good curse to have. It's simple and straightforward enough to use. Although it's hard to say how it stacks up without knowing what else is on the table. You really think it's that good? The target can't do much to throw it off, and it has a nice long activation window. It's big that it works on lighters too. Just slip one in your target's pocket. And say that conditions were already filled before they even know you're there. They wouldn't even know what hit them. Maybe I won't have to actually use it. I could just tell someone I could, and they'd have to do what I said. Threats could work, although without any proof, it'll come down to how convincing you can be. If only you could use the curse, then back out at the last second. At the last second? What an interesting idea. I have a lighter right here. We could try it now. That's an interesting proposition. But maybe not. I'm not quite crazy enough to make myself a guinea pig. Oh, I see. You're an odd one, ma'am, if you don't mind me saying, and I don't think it's just a curse. You flatterer. As for what we do next, first of all, I think you should stay indoors. Try not to do anything spontaneous or outside of your normal routine. Right then, have you decided what you want me to work on? Have you decided what you want me working on? Help me with the rite. Bringing my son back is more important. I want you to help me with the rite of resurrection. Roger that. The rite it is. Odds are good that the other curse bearers are also working by night. Anyone they kill under cover of darkness won't be discovered until sunrise. I bet they'll be trying to do as much as they can before morning comes. So it's settled then. I'll look into the other curse bearers by night. And once the city wakes up, I can start asking questions. I'll investigate the kidnapping as well. I'll even try and find Miss Shiraishi as part of the bargain. Thank you. That's more than enough. to make the other choice. How much can I give you to change your mind? Sorry, ma'am, but not everyone has a price. I've got my policies and I stick to them. I see. I didn't realize you were so stubborn. Okay, so that's all normal. How about stealing? Yeah. Got that part. I mean, it doesn't seem like I can do anything else. That's it. That's all my choices. The guest table. I don't know where Father got this old thing from, but I've never liked it. Seriously? Is this it? No. How do I finish the chapter? What do I do now? I'm out of choices. The telephone. This mansion has a private line. Now then. I should get to work. There's only so much time before sunrise. I'll call you if I find anything new. You stay here and keep a lookout. All right? There's no telling what kinds of curses you might find out on the streets tonight. Don't go outside if you can help it, and try to be ready for anything. I will. Well, that's all. I should be going. Despite having obtained the curse of the haunting clappers, Shigema is determined to use the rite of resurrection by stealing the remaining curse stones. She instructs her private investigator Richter to find the other curse bearers. Haruhi Shigema, 1 a.m. Shigema Mansion reception room. It's been almost an hour since Richter left. He promised me he'd call me if anything happened. But he hasn't. So all I can do is wait, and wait. I've seen it too often to feel anything from it now. It's a fax machine. I rarely find a use for it. I don't know anybody else who owns one. I'm waiting for Richard to contact me, but he hasn't. Come to think of it, I never offered him any tea. Not that I ever learned to make it. What's this? A newspaper? Must have fallen off from the chair. It's a newspaper. I only leave them in here for the guests. I hardly ever read them myself. I don't think I've taken the time to go over one in years, in fact. Well, it's not like I have anything better to do. Look at society articles. It looks like the city's biggest problem right now is pollution. I remember how the air and water used to be even more polluted. The river was covered in scum from all the sewage and industrial waste, and it stank so badly it'd make my eyes water. Eventually people started getting sick, and it couldn't be ignored anymore. Fortunately, it's gotten better since then. Although the air around the industrial district is still filthy with gas and smog. Economy articles. All sorts of articles about the current state of the economy. Now that the post-war boom has passed its peak, we're moving into the era of large corporations. It's about 220 to 230 yen to the dollar. Manufacturing is on the rise and exports are healthy. The dollar is down from its height and people are saying it could fall further. There's no denying how much the standard of living has improved in the past few years. It's common to own a car and television now, and supermarkets are better stocked than ever. Culture. Now that everyone has more spending money to go around, people are coming up with all kinds of new diversions. It seems like only yesterday that people were flocking to the arcades to shoot aliens, but now we have these enormous theme parks and gaming machines that plug straight into our televisions. Everyone's talking about superhero series, foreign films, and movies based on the latest bestseller. Back in my day, fusion rock and folk music was all the rage, but now it's all about city pop and idols. I find it hard to care about that sort of thing anymore. Everyone attends high school now, even girls. Universal education policy, they call it. The country's gotten rich enough that every child can go to school. Education is the backbone of modern society. If you want to work for a good company, you have to get into a good university. With more people in the running than ever, the competition to get into those universities has gotten fierce, though. The new generation is rebelling. Schoolyard violence and delinquency are on the rise. But my boy was too sensible to get mixed up in any of that. I don't want to read anymore. It'll only remind me of him. There's nothing on at this hour. I see no point in turning it on. Okay, click on the sticker, huh? Should I put a record on? No, it's too late for that. I'm not in the mood for music anyway. The ticking seems so loud. It just goes to show how quiet it is. I know it's dangerous to go out, but I can't just sit here and let this opportunity pass me by. I have to look for her. For Michio Shiraishi. But first, I need to find more soldier eggs. I don't really watch much television. It feels as if the information in the world gets passed through that little black box. But father stopped them from reporting it on the kidnapping back when it happened. I was glad about that. Less fuss. I'm waiting for Richard to contact me, but he hasn't. I need to distract myself somehow. I don't want to be alone with my thoughts. Maybe reading the newspaper will take my mind off things. Yeah, well, I thought I didn't want to read it. Although with everyone flocking to the city, land prices are skyrocketing. Nowadays, most people can only dream of home ownership. The city center is going to be nothing but apartments before long. Not exactly a businesswoman, so this all feels like another world to me. If there's one thing Honjo never wants for, it's horrific crimes. They found a police officer dead in a local park just the other day. A lot of my family are in the police. I hope it wasn't anybody I knew. I don't read the news anymore, not since last year. It brings back bad memories. Suicide at local high school? Oh, I remember that. A high school girl jumped off a roof about a week ago. She was bullied, I think. Or maybe it was something about exam pressure? What? But No, this can't be right. Her name. Michio Shiraishi from Komagata, Komagata High? From Komagata High School? It can't be. I hear the new big thing is some mascot line of delinquent birds. Mockingbirds, I think it's called. What was that Richard was talking about? Trends seem to have such short-lived lives now, with how quickly the times are changing. I think I'm just too old to keep up anymore. It's young people who are leading the way with their modern worldviews. My generation will only fall further behind. Waiting for Richard to call me. Huh? That must be him. Hello? Shigma residence. Haraway Shigima, 2 a.m. Komagata Bridge. Or Komogata. Richard called me out to meet him and we came here to Komogata Bridge. Richard, there's something I need to tell you. Funny, I was thinking of the same thing. We're on Komogata Bridge over the Sumida River. There's a highway on one side and a freeway on the other, but they're both deserted this late at night. Komogata Bridge, one of the bridges spanning the Sumida River, completed in 1927 as part of the reconstruction effort following the Great Kanto earthquake. It is notable both for its distinctive blue arches and the cutting-edge, for the time, techniques used in its construction. There are many bridges stretching across the Sumida River, each boasting a unique structural form and design. The Sumida River. The water is filthy and horrid, but at night, when it's still, it looks almost peaceful. Can I ask you something, ma'am? Is the Sumida River what you Honjo folks picture when you think of home? I couldn't say. All I can tell you is that I can hardly stand the sight of it. Right, should have guessed. This was where they found him after he went missing. All alone, floating in that horrible water. All I can think is how scared he must have been, how cold he must have been. What did he ever do to deserve something so awful? I've come here every day since then. And I prayed to the river to give him back. To give me back my son. Day after day after day. You know, in olden times, people believed rivers marked where our world met the next. So the act of crossing flowing water had a huge amount of spiritual significance. Back when Edo was founded, the people of Chuyo saw the Sumida River the same way. They associated the far side of the river with the afterlife. That same place would later become Honjo. All their fear and revulsion accumulated there and took root. But then the Ryogoku Bridge sprang up after the Great Fire of Maireki, and just like that, Honjo was part of the city too. And as it turned from farmland into a town, the people surrounded it with man-made rivers and crisscrossed it with canals and waterways. Weren't those to prevent flooding? That's what I was told. They were, but that's not all they were for. Their other purpose was to contain all the corruption that had built up on the far shore, and to stop it leaking through to our side of the Great Divide. Officially, they were a physical barrier, but unofficially, they were a spiritual one too. So, if I have this right, are you saying that Honjo is a place where the real world meets the afterlife? Exactly. That's why the rite of resurrection is here, rather than anywhere else. I'm sure of it. And it's probably why the 7 mysteries and their curses have survived to the modern day. And I guess that would make this spot we're standing right now, right over the water, the border between life and death. If there was a place where bringing back the dead might be possible, I reckon it's here. It's funny that you mentioned praying to the river. That might have done more than you think. Is that supposed to make me feel better? Just thinking aloud, ma'am. Well, it's a nice thought. goodness. Sumida River, a Class A river that is part of the Audap River system, which runs through much of eastern Tokyo and empties into Tokyo Bay. During the Edo period, Sumida's riverbanks played a key role in the transportation of lumber used for construction. In addition to its logistical importance, it was also a place for the common folk to gather and enjoy activities such as seasonal flower viewing or river bathing, and there exist many woodblock prints depicting such activities. The area became plagued with sewage issues when the surrounding environs were industrialized in the post-war period, but the situation has improved since. Many unique bridges span the Sumida River, including the Ryokoku and Azumabashi bridges, which attract a large number of visitors as sightseeing spots. Massive fireworks displays in the summer are also always sure to draw a crowd. The river has served as a cornerstone for both the city and its people, having both aided in its development and serving as an inspiring backdrop for countless works of art and literature. Oh, that's right. There's one more memory I have of this river. Do you mind if I tell you? Go ahead. It must have been about 20 years now, when I was still a schoolgirl. Back then, the Sumida River was much filthier than it is now. It was full of garbage and industrial discharge. It was scummy and slimy, and it stank. You could look out over the water and see dead cats and dogs and pigeons just floating. And one day, among all the filth and garbage, there was a piece of my missing classmate's hand. What? It was a miracle when you stopped to think about it. What were the chances that someone would find a part of her that was still recognizable? And that although everything to the palm had rotted away in the river, the part that was left would have an identifiable scar. And that they could tell it'd been a murder from the blade marks on the bone. Wait, are you talking about the Ninjima murders? So you've heard of it. I'm impressed. I assume you were an elementary schooler at the time. I wasn't really aware of it then. I only heard about it after the fact. I had no idea the victim was a classmate of yours. The Ninjima murders, a notorious case from over 2 decades ago involving the murder of a female high school student. It first came to the attention of the authorities when part of a human left hand was discovered floating in the Sumida River. Testing revealed it to belong to a missing female high school student. As it appears to have been severed deliberately, the police launched a murder investigation. A large-scale search of the river was organized, but the highly polluted state of the water made it impossible. Visibility was poor, the stench was intense, and the divers quickly fell ill. They succeeded in recovering only the victim's head and what appeared to be part of her leg before the search was called off. At the time of the incident, the Sumida River was as polluted as it had ever been. Neither fish nor shellfish could survive it, eventually causing the annual fireworks festival to be called off indefinitely. Over the course of the search, the police discovered a number of unidentifiable human bones. This caused a stir among the public as several other young women had gone missing in recent years in the Tokyo area, and it was feared that they may have fallen victim to the same fate. Forensic technologies at the time, however, were not advanced enough to determine the identities of the deceased, and so the police were unable to open any inquiries. Due to the overwhelming lack of circumstantial evidence, the investigation ground to a halt until a hitherto. I've never really been quite sure how to pronounce this one word. Hitherto, unrelated individual came to its attention. Hitherto. During a questioning about a separate incident, Fumichika Nijima, a 36-year-old shop owner with no relation to the victim, divulged details about her that had never been released to the general public. An investigation into his background was conducted, leading to his arrest. Nijima testified that he had snatched his victim from the street and confined her in the underground storeroom of his shop, which also served as his living quarters. He chose her for no special reason, but simply decided she was an opportune target on seeing her walking alone at night. After keeping her locked up for several days, he restrained her, sewed her mouth shut, and severed her fingers and toes with a box cutter while she was still conscious. As she screamed silently behind her sealed lips, he proceeded to her wrists, her ankles, her elbows, her knees, working his way inward slowly and methodically, his victim constantly wavering in and out of consciousness. Her ordeal continued until she died of blood loss. Nejima dismembered the rest of her body and disposed of it behind his home in the Sumida River before cleaning his storeroom and returning to his everyday routine as if nothing had happened. The brutality of his actions shocked the nation when they were eventually reported. Once apprehended, Nejima readily divulged the details of the murder, but was less willing to explain his motive. When asked, he would only break down in tears, saying, "I don't know what came over me. I know it was wrong." In the end, the police could extract nothing more from him than expressions of remorse, although the efficiency of his methods and strongly suggested that he had committed similar crimes in the past. No corroborating evidence came to light. Nejima was sentenced to life in prison. At his first hearing, the sentence was imposed with no appeal from the defendant. Fujika Nejima, male, self-employed, the man who made headlines over 2 decades ago as the perpetrator of the brutal killings known as the Nejima murders. To be honest, it was all a bit of a blur, a wave of chaos just parting around me. Something like that. They said the rest of her body must have sunk to the bottom of the river. They combed the riverbed, but they only ever found pieces. Everything else must have rotted and flowed out to sea. Afterwards, I heard all the divers who had been looking for her fell ill. A sorry story for everyone involved, huh? It's funny, everyone figures the river's filthy already, so one more piece of garbage won't hurt. But every little bit makes it worse. It's a vicious cycle. I know I wouldn't want to go rooting around down there myself. That's right, which is why the riverbed is the last place anybody would go looking. Or so was the killer's thinking, I suppose. The times were changing quickly back then. Things were confusing. Everyone seemed to be in a hurry. Young people were moving to Tokyo in droves. Some even ran away from home to make it in the big city. And they made easy targets for bad people. A lot of them ended up disappearing without a trace. You see, back then, if you chopped up a body into tiny pieces and threw it in the river, it would rot quickly and discreetly and sink to the bottom, never to be seen again. Are you saying what I think you're saying? They arrested him shortly after. Fujika Nejima, the man who killed my classmate and cut her into pieces. He was so methodical about it, it couldn't have been his first crime. And people began to wonder how many other girls he'd murdered the same way. The police never found any evidence of other murders in the end. But the river knows the truth. How many corpses has it swallowed up from over the years, I wonder? That same thought spread through everyone's mind, and they started to avoid this area. So really, this river has been rank with corruption for decades now. Or at least that's how it seems to me. Well, was that interesting? Well, I can see why you don't have any good memories of this river. Well, with all that darkness lurking beneath the surface, there's no reason that you would. Still, if I may, ma'am, I'm surprised you know so much about the Nejima murders. But how could I not? After all, I was the one who found the hand. Huh? The police actually wrote me a thank you letter. They said it was only thanks to me that they managed to bring Nejima to justice. That was the only time my father ever said he was proud of me. Huh. I guess it wasn't just the killer's day. I guess it just wasn't the killer's day. Sometimes I wonder if he resents me for it. Sumida River. I have nothing but awful memories of it. She's a pretty interesting character. She's definitely out there. He's gazing down at the water. You go first. Please go ahead. All right then. I've been poking around places connected to the 7 mysteries looking for curse bearers. And I think I found a few candidates. First, the tall man I ran into in Kinshiburi Park. I asked him for directions, trying to probe him a little, but he turned the question right back around on me. And he was out there for the second he was out of there the second he figured I wasn't what he was looking for. I got the sense curses were nothing new to him. I'm about 40% sure he's a curse bearer. Then there's this middle-aged guy I saw in South Watagishu Street. There's no question about this one. He had one of the curse stones in his hand. He had a nervous air about him, too. It was clear he was up to some shady business. Gathering soul dregs, I'd bet. He'd make a good target. Next up is a pair, a young man and a woman I saw around the Yogoku Bridge. This time the man came up to me and asked me flat out if I was a curse bearer. I told him I didn't know what he was talking about, and he backpedaled and left. Looks like they lurk around here often, looking for kindred spirits, would be my guess. Though it didn't seem like they were quite working as a pair. Gathering soul dregs in a group might be a decent idea if you could make it work. But with things being how they are, it's got to be hard to find folks one can trust. They've got brass though. I don't know what their deal is, but I'd like to find out. Last is two detectives I've been sniffing around. The police are involved? Not necessarily. A body turned up in a local park a few days ago, so they might just be looking into that. Still, the park's got ties to one of the 7 mysteries. Might be it was a curse that did the guy in. And if they were sending in detectives from the head office, then something's got to be up. How do you know where they're from? Let's just say that when you're in this business, there are some faces you get to know. Anyway, that's everyone who's caught my eye. You found all of them in so little time? I really did hire the best. Oh, it's all in the name, ma'am. Richter Kai, P.I. No, wait. Make that Richter Kai the investigator extraordinaire. My, an investigator extraordinaire. Is that why you can dress like that without drawing attention to yourself? You bet. An investigator extraordinaire can blend in like a chameleon in any outfit. Well, that aside, the middle-aged man and the young couple sound the most promising, am I right? Whichever we pick is still too early to make a move. It seems like the curse bearers are less involved with each other than we thought. Plus, there's still others we don't know about. I say we hang fire and see how things play out. Once more bodies start showing up, that'll get the pot nice and hot. And once it's boiling, our chance will come. There's something I need to tell you. What's up? Well, that girl, Michio Shiraishi, the one who was with Shuichi on the day of the kidnapping, that's her. Well, she's dead. She's what? The student who committed suicide last week, that was her. I heard something like that had happened. Never got the name, though. Talk about bad luck. We finally get a lead only to find it's turned into a literal dead end. Unless her death was the whole reason Jinoichi was so shaken up. He said she was going to curse him. Was he talking about her taking revenge from beyond the grave? Seems like we're back to where we started. Not necessarily. That teacher knows something, I'm sure of it. At the very least, I'd put money on him having something to do with Miss Shiraishi's death. That's why he's so scared of being cursed by her. I see. Also, something tells me he knows more about your son's kidnapping. In any case, I think I've got a good idea of what he's hiding. Call it a hunch. A hunch? Well, more of a theory. Care to take a guess? Couldn't say. I'm just an ordinary housewife. I'm not clever enough for all this. Are you sure? I'd had you down for a sharper than that. That's flattering, but I'm afraid you're mistaken. Anyway, that's enough speculation for now. The truth will be out in time. Right now, I think we need to have another chat with Mr. Jinoichi. Okay, why don't we stop it there? This is audap. You've been watching Paranormasight, the 7 Mysteries of Honjo, running on Nintendo Switch. Yeah, I mean the game gets more and more intriguing the more we play it. So, yeah, I'd really suggest to folks who like their kind of horror visual novels or horror mystery visual novels. I think you're gonna find some really good stuff in here. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed watching. I will see you at the next stream.